normally when we make a speaker, what we do is we start with a visual design, typically. So they'll come with drawings, an estimation of how big the speaker is going to be, what kind of room we have for amplifiers and drivers and so on, and what the expectations are from the customer. And that comes to the acoustics department, and then we work with those parameters, or we go back and say we're going to need a little more space for the woofer or whatever. We enter into a series of negotiations trying to balance the acoustic performance with the visual design, and that goes through the process of development entirely. That's what we normally do for every speaker that we make, with two exceptions. And the two exceptions were the BeoLab 5, which we released something like 12 years ago, and the BeoLab 90, which is the flagship speaker now. The difference with those is that those started in the acoustics department. So we go to the visual designers and we say we need this woofer and this many liters behind it, this size of an amplifier, and therefore we need to radiate this many watts of heat out, make it pretty. So it's exactly the opposite path. But in many respects, it's for two completely different products. One product is, I hate the word lifestyle because most people, that's a pejorative word for most reviewers, but it really is a product that, like the BeoSound 35, we always use internal code words and I don't know the commercial names. For a product like that, it really is a speaker that's designed to give you music as you move around through your house. It's not designed for one person sitting in one place and listening for imaging and detail. It's delivering an environment. BeoLab 90 is different. As I said in the presentation, it really is, at its heart, an audiophile speaker, so it's for somebody with one chair and no friends. But it is able to convert with an app in the customer's hands to a speaker that has the ability to fill up the couch with the same kind of sound at the expense of that sweet spot, or to be a party speaker. You can also, if you go to the dining room, for example, you can rotate the sound and send it to the dining room, so you choose which tweeter is the main one, which mid-range is the main one.
That's why it's multifaceted?
That's part of it. The real reason it's multifaceted is to get that directivity control. Right. What we're doing is using the front woofer mid-range tweeter as a normal three-way speaker, and then using the other drivers to control what's happening out the sides and out the back. But because we have that control, a byproduct of that is that we can decide to rotate the sound and use a different tweeter. It's the same quality. It's 7 matched tweeters, 7 matched mid-ranges, 3 plus 1 matched woofers. So we don't lose quality in that respect. So what you gain is the convenience that you have with a product like the BeoSound 35, for background music or for lifestyle listening. At the same time, you can turn it into something else. But that means that its evolution was very different. That means that we had to decide, we in the acoustics department had to decide where the drivers should be, not only where they are in space, but which direction they're pointing in. And that had to be given to the visual designers.
Yeah, because so you started with sound rather than the kind of end user market intention.
Exactly. What we actually started with was what should a customer hear when he sits in the chair? Forget about what the speaker is and what it does.
What it looks like.
What it looks like. Forget everything about this part of the room. What should it sound like when you sit there? And to do that, what we did was went and listened to a lot of home speakers and said we want the imaging of that one and the bass of that one and the something of something else, and let's fold all that into one product somehow. We didn't know how at that point. But also going to recording and mastering studios and listening to what they hear, because that's really the target. You should hear what the mastering engineer heard when they mastered the recording. So that's our target for the experience. And in terms of qualities, not quality, we looked at different speakers and said we really like the high end of this one and the mid-range of that one, the bass of that one. And then the challenge became to fold all that together into one product.
Yeah. So if you have, I mean, this is the flagship speaker, isn't it? So how does that filter down into other products?
Yeah, right now what we're doing, of course, as I said in the presentation, this one's not quite finished yet. We're going to roll out at least 2 more software versions by July.
Right.
And so I'm working full-time on this one, as are the DSP engineers and the acoustical engineers. This is a full-time project still for another 6 months or so.
How long has the development been so far?
It depends. That, in its current form, started about 3 years ago, but we first started talking about it about 7 years ago.
Wow.
So we first started forming fuzzy ideas of what we wanted about 7 years ago. What that means is that currently I don't know how its technologies will filter down. There's no question that they will. And I don't know what the timescale will be. I don't know how far down. I don't know any of that. But of course it will. We can't leave all of this technology in a flagship product and not filter it down.
Well, yeah, 7 years is a long lead time for a product as well. That must be atypical in the industry in terms of a commitment to an idea.
It may be. It's not atypical for us. BeoLab 5 took about 10 years total development time. If you look at the very first day they started talking about it to the release date. Normally with our product, something like BeoSound 35, that's more like a 1 year total time. So it's a very different speed. It's a very different process. It's also a lot of what we've done here in the BeoLab 90 was new for us. So there was a lot of learning going on through the process. It wasn't just doing another one, say. That kind of understates what we normally do, but there wasn't a lot of... we had to develop a new PCB board, we had to develop new DSP hardware, new DSP software, and so on and so on and so on. We customized amplifiers, we had to build a new power supply. Everything was new. And that required generations of each of those things to find out how it would behave as a package. So it was new for us on the way through, and that's why that development time was longer.
So maybe this year or next year for it to be declared finished and...
Yeah, the current estimate is July for the final software. At least in terms of sound performance, you could say. There may be additional updates in the future. We normally allow for additional updates to improve connectivity, for example. If we have a new TV that comes out and we need to make some adjustments in the speaker for that, then that would therefore require a new software. But that won't change the sound performance. Currently we're looking at least 2 major leaps in sound quality by July. There will be one in about a month and one in July. And those will be jumps. But then after that, I don't expect much to change in the sound performance.
It sounds pretty nice already.
We're getting there.
That's great, thank you.
No problem.